Hello everyone, welcome back to our new video. And now we're going to deal with variables again, just like our last video, but in a bit of a different context, which is equations. If you want to know about expressions, you can check out our last video right here. But in this case, we're going to deal with specifically with equations, and I'm going to explain a bit what those are, okay? But to begin with, let's just get a very simple math problem. 2 plus 4, okay? 2 plus 4 equals something that we don't know yet, right? And to get this answer, we just add 2 plus 4 together, right? And we get the answer 6, right? Very simple, just addition. But now, what if you had your final answer and you didn't have one of your, addition numbers? What if you had, 2 plus something, right? So your problem was 2 plus something equals 6. And the something is this thing that you don't know, but you know that it is 6. The final answer is 6. So if you look at this problem, you probably can just figure out that it is 4, just like it was up here, right? But in some cases, you will have much bigger problems with an unknown inside of your answer, inside of your problem, and you will have to figure out what it is, and you won't be able to do it just like by looking. And in that case, we use variables to represent these unknown values. This is where the variables get very useful, because instead of writing this question mark, you could write question mark as your symbol, as your variable, but you could also write something like x. And we often find using these letters more to be more simple, just use these letters. You could use A, you could use B, whatever, just to represent this value here that we don't know. And in this problem, we can actually find what x is, right? This is what equations are. You want to find what your unknown value is, right? What your x is. And in this case, you can look at 2 plus what is 6? 2 plus 4 will be 6. So you know that your x equals 4, right? But you could also have a problem like x plus 21 equals 67, where just looking at it, you might not immediately find what the answer is. And it will get even more complicated than that in the future. But so, what can we do to get the value of x in those cases, if we couldn't just get just by looking? Well, what you want to do in these cases is isolate the variable. All right, this is what we do by doing opposite operations. But before I get into that, I need to explain a very important rule, which is dealing with equivalency. All right. Let's take a very basic equivalent, like statement, 10 equals 5 plus 5, right? Does that make sense? And what if you wanted to subtract 10 by 5? What if we subtracted both sides by 5, right? We subtracted this by 5, subtracted this by 5. In the end, it would still be left with an equivalent statement, right? Because if you have 10 here, you have 5 plus 5 here, and you take 5 from each side, you will still have that 5 equals 5, right? So it's important to keep in mind that when you have an equation, when you have a statement with an equal sign, that whatever you do to one side, if you do the same thing to the other side, you will keep those two sides equal, okay? So in this case, if you want to leave this variable alone, which you'll see in a bit why is very important, if you want to leave this variable alone, you can subtract this side by 21, right? If you subtract this side by 21, you will cancel out this 21, correct? Because x plus 21 minus 21 is just going to be x, right? But then, for you to keep this equivalency, and equivalency just means that it's equal, right? So that both sides are equal. If you want to keep this equivalency and then find what x is, you need to do the same thing to the other side. Subtract 21 from the other side. And this will give you 46. And this is your value for x. And you can see if we go back to our initial problem here and do the same thing, it will also work. If you have 2 plus x equals 6, right? If you want to take out this 2, you can just subtract 2 from this side, right? Because this is the same thing as x plus 2. We could write this as x plus 2 as well, to make it simpler. X plus 2. And now if we subtract 2 from this side, it will cancel out this 2. And now subtracting 2 from the other side, you will keep the equivalency and find what your x is. X equals 4. And this is how you solve for a variable in an equation, all right? So just to finish, to identify an equation is a situation where you have an equal sign, right? And you want to solve for a specific unknown, for a specific variable. You usually have a variable symbol that represents this unknown, all right? And for you to do that, you have to isolate the variable on one side, and you do that through opposite operations, all right? And if you want to find a more concrete example, check out our next video in which I'm going to do the same thing but with a real life example, all right? See you.